Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today we're going to be covering my top 10 favorite manhwa isekai. This one has a lot of amazing series on it, so stay tuned. You're going to really enjoy this. If you have 2 seconds, check out my new merch store that launched. The links are down below in the description. And let's jump right into the top 10. At number 10 is Second Coming of Gluttony. This was actually quite a bit higher on my list before, but Second Coming of Gluttony has an amazing start and stumbles a little bit during some of its arcs. Some are way better than others. It starts off with a main character that is dying in a field, a battle. He gets a piece of his soul or memory or echoes of who he is sent back in time to his younger self, and what seems like an epic sword fighting kind of adventure, but you quickly find out that this is not quite how things function in this world. There's a lot more complexity to how the world actually works, and you're sent on this really interesting adventure. Its story goes through some, like I said, some arcs that are not as good as others, but I have to say the story as a whole I'm enjoying even to now, as I'm up to date with it still today. At number 9 is Dimensional Mercenary. I actually hadn't been reading this one until quite recently. It's a lot of fun. The concept is simple. Imagine you can make money by taking the place of someone else in another dimension and just taking control over their life and doing the things that need to be done. But these things could be horrible. They could be being part of a mercenary group, killing other individuals, but think of all the money you can earn. And there's no consequences. If you die in that world, well, you're just sent back to yours and you just start over once again. However, the person you took control of in that dimension, well, they do pass away, and you feel every single piece of it. It's kind of a terrible concept as something to feel, but as an idea for a manhwa, it is brilliant and works really well. The art gets a huge bump around quite a bit further into the story, so do check it out and give it some time. I think the art, even from the beginning, is perfectly fine, but it definitely gets better later on. At number 8 is My Path to Killing Gods in Another World. I have to say, the setup for this one seems pretty generic. Character gets sucked into a VR world. Well, this is something we've seen a couple of times, you could say. What's interesting about this one is, one, the art is really good. The main character is really cool in this story, and I enjoy his like, well, I'm in a shitty situation, I'm gonna find a way to make the best of it kind of mindset. I really have a lot of fun reading this one week to week, and it is really good. You should be checking it out. The art is really good, as I mentioned, but the combat, the fights, and also the scale of the enemies that he fights as time goes on are just phenomenal. At number 7 is Memorize. Memorize is in the same world as Second Coming of Gluttony. They don't interconnect, they don't talk to each other, but it happens in the same universe, and I have to say Memorize is the better of the 2 series. The storytelling is better. It follows a main character that basically accomplished his goal. He beat the big bad, and he got a choice of what could happen to him afterwards, and he told the goddess that he wanted to start again. He lost too many people along the way, and he wants to make things right. This one has a lot more dialogue than the typical story like this has, and because of that, there's a fair bit of character building and character dynamics involved in the story, which I enjoy a lot, considering there's a lot of these stories that are very basic and all about the combat and nothing else. This one has a good amount of story right there with it. At number 6 is Trash of the Count's Family. Trash of the Count's Family starts off with a simple premise. Main character wakes up in a book. He's in the story of a book that he knows very well, and lo and behold, he is not the main character, he's just a side character that's meant to be punched in the face and pushed aside. Well, he doesn't want that fate for himself, so he decides to change things ever so slightly so that he's able to manipulate the situation and become a little bit more important in this world, while still allowing the main character to do the main character things he needs to. The story's a lot of fun, and what's interesting is this dynamic has been done in a lot of other series recently, but this character uses his knowledge from the past life a lot, and his way to manipulate situations are different from scene to scene, and I find that they've done a great job at being consistent with it. Not to mention, the art style of this series is A-class. It's beautiful, beautiful, and all the main characters are so very distinct from each other that they're easy to recognize at all times. So if you're not checking out Trash of the Count's Family, you definitely should be checking it out. At number 5 is Miriam Logan. Miriam Logan follows the main character. This gets transported into a VR world. This one, though, follows a bit more of that typical leveling system in another world. That being said, the Miriam world that he's transported into is really interesting, with intrigues between families, there's interesting power systems, there's good dynamics between different characters, and there's an interesting relationship between the main character and his regular life, and what he prefers, the Miriam world, or if he prefers this new world. And that dynamic is one that we explore all throughout the story, and I have to say, where it's gone, I really enjoy. If you haven't been checking this one out, you definitely should be. At number 4 is Survival Story of a Sword King in a Fantasy World. That is a name that just rolls off the tongue, isn't it? If you haven't been reading this one, it has a bit of a similar dynamic to Limit Breaker, which is another series where a character gets thrown into basically a tutorial area, and there's a glitch in the system, and because of that, the main character becomes OP due to fighting and defeating the monster again and again and again and again. The thing I like about this story is just the main character's situation is ridiculous. He gets sent into this other world, transported through a puff of smoke into this really cool world where he fights little monsters, and when he's supposed to hit level 5 and get transported to the main area with everyone else, he finds himself reset back to level 1 every single time. And this kind of drives him a little crazy, not too much, but he ends up stuck in this loop for about 10 years until this god of this world realizes, uh-oh, I made a little mistake. And this little mistake makes him want to fix it by making sure the main character dies, so he sends him into a much more powerful area, but lo and behold, the main character has gotten pretty darn strong during his 10 years of fighting growingly stronger enemies. The thing is, his level never grew. However, he has like a substat that buffs himself that he's actually super strong. But because this whole world works on what level you are, creates a lot of situations where people either underestimate him or literally he can't do stuff because of a certain level, and then he just wrecks face because of how overpowered he is. It's a lot of fun. The art is really good, and if you're seeing it on screen right now, you should be checking this one out. 3 is one I know I'm going to be told that I should have put higher up. Tower of God. Tower of God is one of the great manhwas ever created at over 500 chapters already. This one has been running for years, and I've been reading it for years, and I have to say it's gone a bit longer than it should have gone. It has amazing arts with great combat. The art has really stepped up over the years, and Bam has grown as a character like crazy. From where he was when he started versus where he is now, it's a different world entirely. I have to say, as an ensemble story, it is the best ensemble story that exists in Manhwa. Manhwa is really strong at characters that follow, stories that follow one character, but this one is really good at presenting an ensemble, somewhat similarly to how One Piece gives you a lot of different characters to care about with a lot of chapters of storytelling. The interesting thing of Tower of God is the tower system itself. I'm calling it an isekai because basically each floor is a new world, and the character gets transported all the time to these new worlds. And each floor has its rules and its different tests and games, and the only downside I'll say is sometimes I feel like those games can get in the way of things you want to see happen, like a fight between two characters, but they're also the reason our character survives because of them being split apart because of this game. That being said, it's great. It has great family intrigues between different groups that are trying to fight each other, gain power and supremacy over the tower, as well as a amazing antagonistic relationship between the main character and a certain female character. If you have read Tower of God or seen the show, you know who I'm talking about. At number 2 is Her Summon. A little while ago, I would not have put Her Summon so high on this list, but I hadn't finished it yet. And I finished Her Summon a little while ago. Her Summon has the most beautiful art in all of manhwa. There is nothing like it. You can argue that other manhwa do action better, do the excitement of visuals differently, and maybe you prefer a certain style, but in pure visual fidelity and just detail, it is amazing to look at. You see it on screen right now. What I'll say is it's a really fun story of seeing a character start off in a place where you hate him because he's kind of a shitty person, and he turns into a better person by the end of the story. That being said, still not crazy about the main character. I think he suffers from a little bit of the same issue as Mushoku Tensei. They started you off with a character that's really hard to sympathize with because he's like just a creep. But the work they've done to build the character into someone interesting is worth the road and worth the path it gets there. And I was really satisfied with the ending as well. It wasn't perfect, but for me, it did what it needed to do. And it's a finished manhwa. That doesn't happen too often. At number 1 is what is probably one of the best isekais bar none. Not even just manhwa, but in the manga world as well. The beginning after the end is very much a manga type story. It follows a main character that was reborn in another world, that follows many of the same pathways of gaining magic and things like that. Actually, the first arc is a rip-off of Mushoku Tensei, like page per page, but the main character's background, how much of the main character's previous life come into play in the story, particularly in the light novel up till now, is really interesting. Not to mention, most recently, we got the payoff on something we've been waiting a long time to see, and that is absolutely lived up to everything we wanted it to be. It's so damn good, you should be reading it right now. Guys, if you like this list, please do like and subscribe to the channel. I really enjoy making these videos for you guys, and leave a comment down below on what type of videos you'd like to see me do in the future. With that, thank you for watching, and have a great day.